the creators of Despicable Me.
It's time to take matters into our own hands.
We don't have hands, per se.
The plot has hatched.
What are you up to? It's called a coup d'etat, which is a French for coup d'etat.
And the battle for Easter
We the bosses,
begins.
The more sensitive chicks in the room may want to avert their eyes.
Rated PG in theaters April 1st.
And welcome to Time About the Movies. We are taking a look at the 4 films of April 1st, 2011. And our first movie that we have here is Hop, the first official film from Illumination Entertainment after Despicable Me put them on the map. And certainly does not feel like an Illumination Entertainment movie, which I'm willing to bet that Illumination probably had zero to do with this movie except for the opening logo. And that's about it. Because honestly, when you look at this movie, you can't really tell it's them, but in the film, Hop stars the voices of Russell Brand as Edie the Easter Bunny, Hugh Laurie's son, who'd rather drum in a band than be like his father. You have James Marsden as Fred O'Hare, a human who is out of work and wishes to become the next Easter Bunny himself, and the voice of Hank Azaria as Carlos, who's an evil chick who plans to take over the Easter organization. So you can look at the trailers for this, and you can pretty much tell this was supposed to be the Easter answer to something like the Santa Claus, and in some ways, it does kind of work from the visual look of the movie, which looks impressive overall. I mean, this is I believe this was Rhythm and Hughes Animation that did this, the studio, the visual studio that did Alvin and the Chipmunks and a couple of other movies in particular. But the overall visual look of the Easter location, which is on the Easter Island, which I think is a pretty clever little twist there, is very well done. And rarely do we see a movie about this type of thing other than Christmas movies, Thanksgiving movies, Halloween movies. You get a couple of Valentine's movies here and there to try to do something like this. And now you have one for Easter, which, yeah, there's a dozen of TV specials around Easter in general, but there's never been that theatrical movie that's about Easter like this until we got this movie. And they were setting this up kind of to be the big Easter. This is supposed to be like the symbol of Easter. This is supposed to be like the Rudolph. Evie was supposed to be like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer for the Easter season, and sad to say it didn't work out that way. Not to say the movie didn't do well. It did very well at the box office and did good business overall until, of course, Easter happened and then it completely dropped off the face of the earth. But as far as the film itself goes, it's fine. I mean, it's a fun movie for kids. It's definitely a very flawed movie, but for the kids, I think they get a lot of enjoyment out of it, per se, and a decent cast overall here. I think Russell Brand's doing a good job playing the role of E.B., and Hank Azaria in one of many movies we'll have this year where, you know, he's not doing a whole lot of the jokes, he's not getting a lot of good jokes in here, but the jokes overall really aren't that strong, but he is really good in the movie. He's actually one of the funnier things about the movie that made me laugh out loud, because he plays the bad guy in this, but he also plays the sidekick too, and the sidekick sounds like Chief Wiggum from The Simpsons, and it makes sense, because of course he's Chief Wiggum on The Simpsons, but sometimes you get a good joke here and there, but most of the jokes are kind of your typical kid stuff, but then you get those jokes that are kind of amusing, like, you know, when E.B. goes to Hollywood, the first place he goes to is the Playboy Mansion, and, you know, he talks to Hugh Hefner. It's just like, hey, I'm a bunny. You live with the Playboy bunnies in the mansion. I should be allowed in. And they actually got Hugh Hefner to do that. And, you know, it has one gross out joke that I think is actually kind of amusing. Him pooping out the jelly beans, and James Marsden going like, okay, so you're having me poop candy. Like, it's a gross out joke, but it's actually a gross out joke that actually kind of works for this. I even like the little bit about David Hasselhoff, the running gag with him in this movie. I think there is a lot of fun stuff in this movie that does work for the most part. Not everything about it works overall. There are a lot of big flaws. Like, the story is kind of predictable. You can kind of figure out everything that's going to happen. And, you know, the whole thing with E.B. pooping candy, I used to think that was a big flaw to the movie where, you know, you can never figure it out. And it's just like, you know, for what it was, it's really just a one-off joke in particular, because it's something where it's just kind of like, you know, they mention it once. It's not like a big running gag in the movie. I mean, it's not like what we just saw with the Naked Gun with the coffee cup that's all over the place. Like, it's not like something like that's fine that they never explain. It just randomly happens, and I put that to this here because it's only brought up one time in the movie, and for what it is, I'm not gonna lie, it was a good gag. But the big problems, I think, in particular, is that there is a lot of really good talent in this movie, and sadly, kind of like with the jokes, they're really not given a whole lot to do. I mean, James Marsden can be really good. You got a cast that also includes Gary Cole, Elizabeth Perkins, Kaylee Cuoco, Chelsea Handler. The lines they're given here are so cringeworthy, and God help them, they're trying their best to salvage what they can with this, and they just can't pull it off. Like, there's definitely a lot of lines in here that should be funny, but just, they never really make it work overall. Probably my biggest flaw with the entire movie, honestly, is the climax where, Carlos takes over the island, becomes the new Easter Bunny, and then just out of the blue, he turns into this random chick bunny hybrid, which I guess happens when you turn into the Easter Bunny. So yeah, if James Marsden probably saw that, and he'd probably be like, I'm having some second thoughts about becoming the Easter Bunny, and because it's never mentioned how this works. Nothing about that makes any sense at all. It doesn't even look that good, to be honest with you. It's just kind of like, what was that even doing in this movie? And again, I really don't think this is the same company that made Despicable Me. It really does not feel like anything that they had, that their animation is known for, is in this movie, except for the opening logo. That's about it. It straight up looks like Alvin and the Chipmunks, which, yeah, this is done by the same people who made that movie. This is the same people that did Garfield. Hell, they were about to do Life of Pi when they were going bankrupt. I mean, Life of Pi has outstanding visuals to that movie, and yet they still shut it down for no reason whatsoever. Like, what exactly did Illumination do on here? The only thing I can think of is that the writers from Despicable Me, Cinco Paul and Ken Dario, are also the writers on here, so maybe that's their excuse to have it done by Illuminate, to say, hey, let's put Illumination's name in the credits, because other than that, though, there's no other reason why this movie should be connected. Ooh, excuse me. I'm good. Sorry about that. But yeah, there's no indication that this film should be an Illumination production whatsoever, because, like, yeah, nothing else about the movie, it feels Illumination-esque. I think as a film for kids, it's fun, and I think they'll get a kick out of it. For the adults, yeah, it's definitely a movie where you're going to be really questioning the logics of this, and there really isn't a lot of funny stuff in the movie, really, in particular, to give it that boost for the adults to really get into it. But, I mean, it beats the heck out of the Santa Claus sequels. I would rather watch this than watch Santa Claus 2 or 3 again. 2, maybe not so much. 3, yeah, definitely I would watch 3 again, now that I think about it, but yeah, this movie isn't that bad, but it's definitely strictly a kids movie. A harmless kids movie for the most part, but harmless nonetheless. I think you can show it to kids every Easter, and they're not going to get super by it. It is what it is. It delivers what it promises, but for the adults, you're probably not going to get a kick out of it, per se, So yeah, with that said, like I said, this weekend overall is definitely a lot better. That was the weak link of the weekend. Now let's get to the really good stuff. And we're starting off with a really damn good movie that some of you may have not even heard of. A little film called Toy Boat. I'm gonna get through this, damn it. A little film called Source Code. Good lord. How is it that I can't say the word called?
My mission.
A bomb exploded on a train outside of Chicago, killing everyone on board. The source code will send you back before the explosion. If you find the bomber, the next attack can be prevented. You'll have 8 minutes.
For Captain Colter Stevens, every passenger is a suspect.
Find a bomb, you'll find the bomber.
We should get off this train.
You gotta forgive me.
And every second counts. Source Code, rated PG-13, in theaters April 1st.
Source Code is a really damn good movie. The story is that you have a decorated soldier played by Jake Gyllenhaal who wakes up in the body of an unknown man. He discovers he's part of a mission to find the bomb of a Chicago commuter train in an assignment unlike any he's ever known. He learns that he's part of a government experiment called the Source Code, a program that enables him to cross over into another man's identity in the last 8 minutes of his life. With a second, much larger target threatening to kill millions in downtown Chicago, Coulter relives the incident over and over again, gathering clues each time until he solves the mystery of who is behind the bombs and prevents the next attack. The other cast also includes Michelle Monaghan, Vera Farmiga, and Jeffrey Wright. This is directed by Duncan Jones, and Duncan Jones has made a lot of really good movies in his career. He did this, he did Moon a couple years prior, which was really good. It's strange because this was the last really good movie he did, because his next film was Warcraft, which wasn't terrible. It wasn't, but this was back when most people still had trouble making a good video game adaptation. And there was a really good video game adaptation that came out that summer in the Angry Birds movie. And Warcraft was supposed to be the best video game movie ever made. And some might say it was, but back then, really think about what kind of video game movies we were getting back then. He also did Mute, which I barely remember, and I don't think really much made of a lasting impact. And then he's doing this film Rogue Trooper, which has yet to be released yet, but it's an animated movie, so maybe it's got potential there. But yeah, this was the last great thing I ever saw him do as a director. I think he did a very good job of it, too. This is definitely a much better movie than a movie like Moon is, and I like Moon, but this movie is a great movie because Jake Gyllenhaal is working his ass off in this. He's giving probably one of his best performances of his career. I love the chemistry between him and Michelle Monaghan, and you also admire the chemistry between him and Vera Farmiga. The trailers overall do a very good job of kind of not telling you what the actual movie is. You have to see the movie to see the full story here, and they're not really showing you in the trailers everything that's going on in the actual movie, because the movie itself really is very well done in keeping you on the edge of your seat. The writing in this movie is top-notch. The climax, one of the best climaxes you'll ever see in a movie. This is that kind of movie that I think a movie like Vantage Point wishes it could have been. Vantage Point wasn't a bad movie, but you could tell that Vantage Point was very much trying to do something unique and different, and a movie like Source Code nabbed it and just said, here, we're going to do it the right way. And lo and behold, that's exactly what they did here. They created a movie that is so much of a mix between one of my all-time favorite movies, Groundhog Day, mixed in with a little bit of Murder on the Orient Express. It's a film that just works on every level. The casting, the story work, the playthrough, the payoff, the visuals. Everything about this movie just works incredibly well. This is one of my favorite movies of 2011. In a year where we've had a lot of really bad movies. You know, we've had some good ones in the last month or so that have been really, really damn good. Rango, Limitless, now we got Source Code. Definitely one you should definitely check out. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is the first film in the Insidious series, simply known as, well, Insidious.
Perfect home, the perfect family, the perfect life.
Good night, sweetie.
Critics are calling Insidious the scariest movie in decades.
I into Dalton's room. There's something in there with it.
Disturbing.
I want to leave this house.
The scariest horror film since Poltergeist.
It's not the house that's haunted. It's your son.
From the makers of Paranormal Activity. Insidious. Theaters April 1st.
Finally, somebody is giving Darth Maul a reason to be scary in a movie. Yeah, that was always the big joke about the first Insidious movie, is that, oh, Darth Maul is in here. I guess the Phantom Menace, I guess he didn't really die in the Phantom Menace. He just came back as this mysterious creature. And yeah, this is, of course, the first installment of the Insidious series, directed by James Wan of the Saw franchise. And this is actually the third in the series chronological. How do you pronounce this word? Chronology. I'm having trouble with words this week. I can't say the word. I can't say the word called. I can't say the word chronologically. Chronology. It's not that kind of a day today, but anyway, to the movie. The story centers around a married couple played by Patrick Wilson and Rose Byrne, whose boy inexplicably enters a comatose state and becomes a vessel for a variety of demonic entities in an astral plane. You also have Barbara Hershey and also Lynn Shay in here. And this is written by Leigh Whannell, who also worked with James Wan on the Saw movies. And the movie overall was pretty damn good. I mean, the third act is kind of not a great movie, not a great climax overall, but it does end on a pretty damn good twist ending that kind of sets the tone for the future movies. But the first two thirds of this movie are so damn good because they're not relying strictly on cheap jump scares. It's about atmosphere, it's about character development, sneaking around, you know, the sense of dread all over the place. It's a film that knows exactly what it's doing to try to get you an emotion out of you. And like I said, the third act begins kind of rough, but and the climax overall is not one of the better endings to this. But to its credit, the big twist at the end I thought was really damn good. I thought it pulled it around and just like, okay, you won me back over a little bit. And it's funny how Patrick Wilson basically, this was actually one of his two big horror franchises, because 2 years later, of course, he would star in the Conjuring films, and that series has become successful in their own rights. Done by the same people, too. The guys that made Insidious also did the Conjuring movies. People forget that, but But, yeah, this movie overall is really good. It's a very tension-filled movie, a very scary film for the most part. The scenes are so gothic and so, like, that sense of dread all over the place. It's just so well done, and it just really nails everything that it needs to do to get those reactions out of you. And everybody plays their parts very well here. The movie does not pull those strings for those first two-thirds. Doesn't in the third act, but of course it ends on that nice payoff at the end with the twist at the very end. But yeah, overall, pretty damn good movie. Really, really damn good film. One of the better horror movies I've seen, honestly. And of course this series would continue to grow, and it would get better from there, especially with the second movie. So yeah, can't recommend this one enough. Insidious. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here, and that is Super.
Jock stole my wife. Nothing was going right for Frank until the day he decided to fight back.
Shut up, crime.
From the lunatic who directed Slither.
Don't steal. Don't deal drugs. Don't molest kids.
I could be your kid's sidekick. Ta-da!
Ray Wilson, Ellen Page, Liv Tyler, Kevin Bacon.
Face the wrath of the Crimson Bull.
Super. Opens in theaters and on video on demand this April.
Long before James Gunn became known for his works with the Suicide Squad, Guardians of the Galaxy, and more recently Superman, this was his first superhero movie. And boy, was it certainly different than the movies that he would be making down the road. Like, this is a movie that is definitely the polar opposite of a Superman or the Guardians of the Galaxy or Suicide Squad. But this is definitely one of the more intriguing and very interesting superhero movies where you follow. It's the story of Rainn Wilson, who is an ordinary man who becomes a masked superhero called the Crimson Bolt, using savage violence to compensate for his lack of superhuman abilities, and sets out to rescue his wife, played by Liv Tyler, from a drug dealer played by Kevin Bacon. He also pairs up with a teenager played by Ellen Page, and also Nathan Fillion is in the movie because, of course, Nathan Fillion is going to be in here. So is Michael Rooker, so is Greg Henry, so is Linda Cardellini, so is Sean Gunn. So basically, pretty much everyone that James Gunn has worked with in the past is pretty much in this movie, with the exception of Jenna Fisher, his wife at the time. But yeah, this is a movie that is so well done, and there is a lot of similarities to Kick-Ass, to the point where James Gunn himself actually learned of this from his friend Mark Millar, who was the creator of Kick-Ass, and basically said after the movie was released that he was definitely wary of the film, and he thought that sucked because Kick-Ass being made into a movie, basically he thought that meant they were going to be irrelevant, and in the end the stories are so different. Our movie's about a guy who's on his sort of spiritual quest, and he just happens to wear a superhero costume during it, but it's really about the guy and not the costume. So there are definitely very much some similarities, but mostly differences between Kick-Ass and Super. In a way, you can kind of consider this to be kind of the raunchy version of that John Ritter movie, Hero at Large, which he brought up in another interview, which, yeah, if you've ever seen Hero at Large, you can definitely see the similarities in that film as well. But it also helps that you've got an incredible cast to work with here. Rainn Wilson is great in here, Ellen Page, Liv Tyler, Kevin Bacon's pretty good at playing the villain of the film, and the movie shows no mercy when it comes to its violence levels. I mean, this is a movie that it doesn't get the proper respects because Kick-Ass came not too long after this, but no matter how you look at it, it is still a very impressively put together movie, and shows what James Gunn's potential as a director would be going forward with this, because I think not too long after this, that's when his career really began to take off with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, the Suicide Squad, and Superman. Of course, very much different movies than this film was, in terms of the tone and how those movies in particular I mentioned call for more hope in the world, while this one is just like, yeah, we're going to be as bleak as fuck, and it works to the film's advantage, and it plays it very well to a T, and it's a movie that not a lot of people really talk about, but it's a film that's definitely worth seeing. If you like what James Gunn brought to the table with Guardians of the Galaxy, Superman, and Suicide Squad, Super's definitely the one to check out, easily.
I live in Leipzig, population 0.7 million people. I go to school at the class gymnasium.
We need to keep this contained, gentlemen.
Yes. My best friend's Clarice Fleece.
She killed 2 policemen.
I like literature and sport.
I tried to prepare you.
In particular, tennis and athletics. I don't really know who you are, do I? Come and find me.
Rated PG-13.
And welcome to another episode of Time About the Movies, where today we are taking a look at the 5 films of April 8th, 2011. And we begin with our first movie here, and that is Joe Wright's Hannah. which stars Saoirse Ronan, who previously worked with Wright on Atonement, as a teenage girl. Uniquely, she has the strength, the stamina, and the smarts of a soldier. These comes from being raised by her father, played by Eric Bana, who's an ex-CIA man in the wilds of Finland. Living a life unlike any other teenager, her upbringing and training have been one and the same, all geared to make her the perfect assassin. The turning point is at her adolescence, when she's at a sharp one. She's sent into the world by her father on a mission. Hannah journeys stealthily across Europe, while eluding agents dispatched against her by a ruthless intelligence operative with secrets of her own, played by Cate Blanchett. As she nears her ultimate target, Hannah faces startling revelations about her existence and unexpected questions about her humanity. And I'll be honest with you, the first 20 to 25 minutes, I was really enjoying this movie a lot. This is another one of those great thrillers where it's in the snow, you see it all in the snow-covered mountains, and, you know, I'm a sucker for movies like that, especially thrillers like that take place in the cold bleakness of the snow. And the scenes with Saoirse Ronan and Eric Bana as daughter and father are very good here. Then they get caught up by the CIA and walk around the desert. The stuff like that I really liked a lot. It's the second act of the movie where the film starts to fall apart for me. This is a movie that I don't like as much as most people do, and I think it starts with the second act. When they bring in this Taurus family, it got boring real quickly. Like, I couldn't believe how boring this thing got when we got to that point, because it just kept going on and on and on. Nothing happened, and it felt like it never ended. Plus, they play no part in the movie except to later find out who Hannah really is, and then to be taken in by the Cate Blanchett character, and then never heard from again for the rest of the movie. Once they're out of the picture, that's when the movie starts to pick up again, and yeah, the movie really kind of falls apart because of that second act, because it doesn't feel like they had a second act plan. It's just like, they had a great first half, they had a great third act, but they couldn't decide what to do with that second third of the movie. I gave you three different types of the lengths of this movie. First third, third act, second third. Let's go with that. Second third. Yeah, that second third really was just the part where I was just out of it, and I just couldn't take it. And, you know, it did the opposite of what Sucker Punch ended up becoming. You got a movie here that proves that you don't have to be this badass by wearing skimpy, sexy clothing and trying to pretend like you're not being raped behind the scenes. Like, this is a pure example of a female empowerment movie that kind of works, and not that piece of garbage Zack Snyder made a couple weeks ago. But that second act just needed to be better. That second act just needed to be a much better movie. If that part had been edited again, this movie could have been something really, really good. This would have been up there with Limitless, Source Code, and Rango. It's probably one of my favorite movies of the year. But that second act kind of ruins it, and the beginning and the end of the movie is fine, but yeah, that second half really does hurt the film in the end, and I can't really recommend it because of that. So yeah, a mixed opinion on that one, a marginal thumbs down, if you will, bordering on sort of a marginal thumbs up, maybe. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Hannah. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie that we have here. Russell Brand, another movie this April, and that is the remake of the 1981 classic Arthur.
Your mother called. You're going to marry Susan Johnson. Or give up $950 million.
We don't have anything in common. You love horses.
I don't trust them.
You will not make me cry today. You've got something dark in you.
Stop, Horsey. It's not what's it. It just hurts. You need a woman like Susan to look after you. At least something in this room is attracted to you.
Arthur, with PG-13, help me. Help me. Starts April 8th.
And Jennifer Garner, just like Jessica Alba and Little Fockers, is part of the many reasons why this movie is definitely a major step down compared to the original Arthur. Also for the fact that, why does Arthur have a magnetic bed? In fact, there's a lot of scenes in this movie where you're asking, why does Arthur buy all this stuff? Like, why does he have the Batmobile? Not just any Batmobile, the Tim Burton Batmobile from, I think it was Batman Returns, or the first Batman movie. It was one of those two movies, but other than that, though, this is really a pale comparison to the original Arthur. The original Arthur worked because of the great performances by Dudley Moore and Liza Minnelli and John Gielgud. All that worked very well in the original film, and, you know, that's a great movie on its own merits, not just for the movie itself, but for the great soundtrack, the great script, the great levels of comedy. This one, not so much. Russell Brand plays Arthur, which really isn't a bad choice. I mean, to his credit, he's perfectly salvageable in here, but unfortunately, he just has a really bad script that he has to deal with here. But he's a wealthy and alcoholic philanderer who, after a drunken run-in with the law, is forced by his mother, played by Helen Mirren, to marry... No, actually, no, it's not his mother. She plays the butler to... the nanny to John Gielgud's character from the original movie. Who plays his mother in here? Geraldine James plays his mother. She wants him to marry Susan, played by Jennifer Garner, a suitable spouse, or else he will be stripped of his inheritance. But things suddenly become complicated once he meets and falls in love with a free-spirited woman named Naomi, played by Greta Gerwig. And, yeah, like I said, there's pieces about the movie that could work. There's pieces about the film that could be really good, but unfortunately, the script overall, it just really didn't feel like they had the right sense of what they were trying to do here. I mean, like I said, the casting overall is pretty good, with the lone exception being Jennifer Garner. I thought she was kind of being way too sexy for her own good here, and, like, not even the sexy that she was in Alias. Like, this is just sexy in a way that a bad CBS comedy tries to put sexy. Like that's it. Like, the stuff she does in this movie is not really sexy at all. Like, this film suffers because it doesn't really know what made the original Arthur so special. It doesn't really know why the jokes in that movie worked so much better. It worked so much better because you had much more likable people in there. It wasn't insulting your intelligence. And it made Arthur a lovable drunk, and that made him work in there. And you did buy into his chemistry with Liza Minnelli, and also the chemistry between his butler, played by John Gielgud, who got an Oscar for that movie. With this, it's not a movie that really does work overall, and it's not for the actors' bad attempts at trying. They're trying the best they can to save this. I just think the film overall just had a bad team behind the scenes. Like, you have a director who has been mostly working in television with Jason Winter, and he's done a lot of stuff for Modern Family, which coincidentally, there is a lot of Modern Family references in here. They'll be walking around, and you'll see like a Modern Family poster in the background. Even though this isn't a 20th Century Fox release, it's a Warner Brothers release, so why is that even in there? But, I mean, Peter Bainaham, I mean, this guy's not a bad writer either. He's worked on a lot of good stuff. Hell, he worked on Borat. He did a lot of the Sacha Baron Cohen movies. He'll be working later in the year on probably his best overall film with Arthur Christmas. This guy's not a hack writer, but for some reason, this movie just felt so off. Like, it's the definition of a movie where they saw how the original film was seen as a classic. They tried to remake it for a new generation, but they didn't bother remaking it with a script that was on par with the original film and made that film work. Here, the acting is working okay, but it's not enough to save the film overall. And it's just like, it really lets you down at the end, because it's just like, you could see the potential was there. You could see that there was something there for something hilarious and something intriguing and fun, but it just isn't there in this movie. And it's a shame, because there is so much to admire about the efforts they're trying to put together in here, but the script just needed to be better. The script just needed another rewrite to make it work, and sadly, it's just not in this movie, unfortunately. It's a letdown, really, because you see it, and it's just like, okay, there's potential there. I mean, Russell Brand is a nice fit for Dudley Moore from the original, and his chemistry with Greta Gerwig and Helen Mirren works fine, but yeah, other than that, though, it just didn't work. It's another one of those remakes that thought it was trying to do something better than the original, and it just didn't work overall. So yeah, that's Arthur for you. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie that we have here, which is probably the overall best movie we have this week, and that is Soul Surfer.
Her story shocked us.
Teenage girl from the North Shore, shark attack.
Her loss touched us. She will never be the same.
I can't do this anymore.
Her comeback inspired us.
I don't need easy. I just need possible. Something good is gonna come out of this.
And showed us what it takes to be a true champion. Rated PG.
A, it's not really hard to see why, because this one is the one that's at least trying, and two, it's actually this might very well be the best thing that Sean McNamara has ever done as a director, because he directed this movie. Of course, this is the same guy that gave us the epic classics such as Bratz, and of course, Three Ninjas, High Noon, and Mega Mountain. Who remembers that classic? But in this movie, it's based off the story of Bethany Hamilton, and if you don't know her story, she was a surfer who lost her left arm in a horrific shark accident, and, you know, many people thought that she was not going to be able to go ahead and do surfing anymore, but she defies the odds, and here she's played by Anna Sophia Robb, and you also have Helen Hunt, Dennis Quaid, Carrie Underwood, Kevin Sorbo, Craig T. Nelson. So yeah, a couple people that would later go on to star in in stuff that made for like Angel Studios, stuff like the God's Not Dead series. People are in this film. But to its credit, the story overall is a very intriguing story about this woman who loses her arm, really doesn't feel like she has anything else left to do in the world now because she can't do the things she loves, and she basically defies the odds and goes out there and goes back to doing what she does best and becomes kind of an influential figure. And to me, that's kind of a very intriguing storyline here, and I think Anna Sophia Robb does a very good job playing in that role. The rest of the casting overall is not bad either. The film does have some really cool surf shots in here. Yeah, it's schmaltzy too at times. It's very much a typical sports biopic, but there have been good biopics of this type that have done this sort of thing and have been pretty much very generic in their own way, shapes, and form. This is one that definitely feels like that, but like I said, it works for what it's trying to accomplish. It's not trying to be like this groundbreaking movie in any way, shape, or form. It's telling the story that is very intriguing, could make for a really good movie, and it plays very well here. Everybody plays their parts very well. The acting overall is very good. It's a really good film. It's one you should definitely check out. One of the big surprises I saw back then. I was not really expecting a whole lot from it, but I liked it. I thought it was actually pretty good. So, let's go ahead and get back to some crap here, and we are talking about some real garbage with our next movie. How do you follow up the Pineapple Express? Give the guy who directed it whatever he wants to do, and then the result comes out to be Your Highness.
This spring, Academy Award nominee James Franco.
You have the potential to be a noble warrior.
Academy Award winner Natalie Portman.
You cannot rest until you destroy those who harmed your family.
And 5th grade class president.
Delicious.
Danny McBride.
Let us win!
From the director of Pineapple Express, Your Highness.
Here for another bite of some meat.
Rated R. In theaters April 8th.
Yeah, you can kind of see where a lot of the problems with this movie comes into play. It's a movie that has a very ambitious idea, doing like an R-rated equivalent to The Princess Bride, but yeah, it's got the ambition and the high concept to it, but execution-wise, we've kind of seen this done before in so many ways, shapes, and forms. Like, the premise for this is nothing original whatsoever. You have an arrogant prince, played by James Franco, and his brother, played by Danny McBride, on a quest to kill a sorcerer, played by Justin Theroux, and save the bride, played by Zooey Deschanel, and their father's kingdom, and they're joined by Natalie Portman, who had just won the Academy Award for Best Actress for Black Swan, which, thank God she did, because this probably would have been a movie where, if she had not won, people would have put the blame on this film in particular, but I mean, the film has a good concept overall, an R-rated equivalent to something like I said, The Princess Bride, or these fantasy epic movies, but I think a show like Disenchanted, from the guys that did The Simpsons and Futurama, did that concept a whole lot better. It was much more funnier, they took more chances with it because it's animation. With this, yeah, it looks nice, it's got a bigger budget to it, but you give a movie like this a bigger budget, you better expect to make your money back here. You don't dump this out in the middle of April where nobody really is going to go see this movie and you think you're going to sell on the same levels that you did with Pineapple Express, and also forgetting Sarah Marshall and all these other R-rated comedies that Universal was putting out back then. But this is just a movie that really, it didn't really live up to the promise that it had. It would help if the jokes were actually funny, but no, a lot of the jokes they have in here are just lazy jokes. Like, oh look, there's Danny McBride falling down in a night suit. There's a part of the movie where Danny McBride sees Natalie Portman coming into his bedroom, and he's just like, and Natalie Portman's just like, I've been thinking a lot about you lately. And Danny McBride's just like, well, that's funny because if I get back to bed, I'll be thinking about you. Just like, jokes like that get so old so fast, and it's just like, come on, man, like. Even the bad guy isn't threatening whatsoever, and Zooey Deschanel has probably one of the most pointless roles I've seen her in a long, long time. Like, this woman does absolutely nothing throughout the course of this movie, and again, it feels like Hollywood has just completely forgotten about what Zooey Deschanel could do, besides what she did in New Guy and Elf, and these other movies. Like, it feels like she's stuck in another performance like The Happening. Like, don't be anything, just be the damsel in distress. Don't do anything. It's just like, it doesn't make any sense why she's even in this role in particular. Like, you've got her in here. Do something with her. You've got Justin Theroux playing the bad guy. Justin Theroux can be fun. Do something with him. Like, the movie can't even do that. Like, this film is so lazy. in an attempt to try to be so unique and so different. Like, it's no wonder this thing failed to find an audience. This was back when Universal had so many bombs going on. Like, between 2009 and 2011, they had so many bad movies that were flops. Some of them were actually good movies, highly unique comedies, like the aforementioned Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and also, what was the other one? MacGruber. And, just recently we had Paul. But this feels like there was a concept there, but they just didn't go all the way with it, and like it just makes no sense whatsoever why this movie came out like it is, and it just didn't work. It's just not a good movie. It's a terrible film, a complete waste of time. Just not a great film whatsoever. So, at least I'll give this credit. It's at least trying to do something interesting and unique, unlike our last movie, which may be one of the most pretentious pieces of garbage you will ever see in your entire life. Meek's Cutoff.
He's taking us. Is he ignorant? Is he just plain evil?
Who knows what's over that here? Could be water. Could be an army of heathens.
What happened? What am I talking about? Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is not, it's not a good sign if I show you 10 seconds of the trailer and you already want to fall asleep at this point. That's this movie. This whole movie is literally a film where nothing happens for over 2 hours. Like, this is unbelievably awful. This is a film that is loosely based off of a historical incident on the Oregon Trail in 1845, where you have a frontier guide played by Bruce Greenwood leading a wagon train on an ill-fated journey through the Oregon High Desert, along the route later known as the Cutoff in the western United States. Yeah, and that's pretty much all the movie. I mean, you've got a cast in here that includes some notable names. The aforementioned Michelle Williams, Will Patton, Zoe Kazan, Paul Dano, Shirley Henderson, Tommy Nelson, Neil Huff, Rod Rodno. This is a movie that I really couldn't believe how lazy it was and just how boring it was. Nothing was happening in this movie. It is one of the biggest pretentious pieces of garbage you will ever see in your entire life. You're sitting there for a long period of time waiting for something to happen. It's just them riding these wagons through the desert, and that's it. Like, at least in the Oregon Trail, something is happening. When someone dies of dysentery, they make it an event. Like, they make it something where you need to pay attention to this because some shit is going down. Nothing goes down in this movie whatsoever. This is a boring movie, and this was at a time when westerns were making a comeback. We just had True Grit, we had 310 to Yuma, we had Open Range, Appaloosa, the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Those westerns, they may be long westerns, but they're still more entertaining than this pile of garbage. This isn't even an hour and a half long, and it feels like you're just dragging on and on and on and on. Just like, get on with it already. Like, I feel like I need to put in the Monty Python and the Holy Grail clip, get on with it! Like, that's what it feels like when you watch this movie. This whole film is just terrible. It's a bad film. It's a boring film. It wastes too much talent all across the board. What more do you gotta say, man? Meek's Cutoff. Cut this movie out of your existence.
Creators of Ice Age.
Welcome to Rio.
A bird who never learned to fly will discover a place where he can soar.
What are you doing? I don't know.
In Rio, the music never stops. Flying's what you feel in here, and the comedy never ends. You did not feel it in here, Rio.
Yeah, little King Kong.
This film is not yet rated.
And welcome to Time About the Movies. We are taking a look at the 4 films of April 15th, 2011, and we begin with our first movie here, the biggest new release of the weekend, of course, and that is Rio. And in this film, when Blue, voiced by Jesse Eisenberg, a domesticated macaw from small-town Minnesota, meets the fiercely independent Jewel, voiced by Anne Hathaway, he takes off on an adventure through Rio de Janeiro with the bird of his dreams. Leslie Mann, Rodrigo Santoro, Jermaine Clement, George Lopez, Tracy Morgan, Jamie Foxx, Will.i.am, and Jake T. Austin are also among the voice cast in this. This is kind of an interesting one for me, because this was one where I didn't go into this with the highest of expectations. I mean, I like Blue Sky Studios' work up to this point. I mean, everything they had done to this point ranged from really good to okay, I guess. Like Ice Age Dawn of the Dinosaurs and, you know, Horton Hears a Who, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, this is a movie where I really didn't go into it with a lot of expectations. I thought it was just going to be another, you know, pop culture-filled, bad comedic pun-filled animated film like what happened with Horton Hears a Who, which I did like that movie, but yeah, it was still disappointing to see some of the stuff they threw in there. But this all of a sudden really became probably my favorite Blue Sky Studios movie up to this point, because it's not what I thought it would be. I mean, you do get those predictable bad comedy puns with Tracy Morgan's dog character in here, and there are the pop culture references, but they weren't as many as I thought they were going to be. And I think why I love this so much is that they did a good job making this film feel like a film that Disney would have put out. And coincidentally, you know, later in the decade, they would eventually be bought up by Disney, but it's got musical numbers, vibrant animation, very likable characters. I mean, this is right up there with Rango as the best animated film of the year. I mean, Rango's at the top, but this is definitely right up there in a very lackluster year for animated films, if you will. It was not a good year for animation in general, but then again, it wasn't a great year for movies in general. But Real did really feel like a good Disney movie that wasn't made by Disney. It's the one thing... There's one thing that I didn't like about it. I would say it's the story. It's a very predictable story. You got two different creatures that at first hate each other, and then they're going to eventually fall for each other, and then there's going to be that big third act breakup before they have to get back together again. I mean, we've seen this done before so many times. And yeah, we just had it recently with Alpha and Omega, which, needless to say, is certainly a hell of a lot better than Alpha and Omega was. But with Real, you can kind of let it pass because everything else about the movie is just so good. The movie works because of how gorgeous the animation looks. I mean, it does a great job of making the city of Rio de Janeiro look as beautiful as it does, look as vibrant as it does. The musical numbers are really good. You like all the characters around. It's a terrific movie. It's an incredible movie. It's a really damn good film. It's one of my favorite Blue Sky Studio movies they've ever made. And they have made a lot of good movies, but this is definitely very high up in their best ones yet. I mean, this is a film that I can't recommend enough. Seek the first Rio out. It's a really good movie. Second one, not so much. We'll get to eventually that one 3 years down the road. But Rio 1, still a great movie after all these years. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Scream 4.
Fear
Hello? Hello? Hello?
is back.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Two girls killed the exact day of the anniversary of the infamous Woodsboro murders.
On April 15th,
This whole situation's under control.
getting scared
This isn't a comedy, it's a horror film.
has never been this much fun.
Should have seen the look on your face.
Scream 4, rated R.
Back in the day when people just made pointless sequels for the sake of pointless sequels, but then again, someone makes a sequel because the last movie didn't work out so well, which was the case with Scream 3. Scream 3 was not a big hit, and actually was the death killer for the series in general, so, I mean, it makes sense to try to go back and at least give this a more serviceable conclusion than the previous movie did, and also maybe try to start anew with this, but, in this film, it takes place on the 15th anniversary of the original Woodsboro murders from Scream and involves Sidney Prescott, once again played by Neve Campbell, who returns to town after 10 years, where Ghostface once again begins killing students from Woodsboro High. Like its predecessor, Scream 4 combines the violence of the slasher genre with elements of black comedy and whodunit mystery to satirize the cliches and film remakes. The film also provides commentary on the extensive use of social media and the obsession with internet fame. And the tropes are definitely in this one. You've got scenes where, you know, the opening of the movie, you have to have the scene where you have to kill off two people that are recognizable names. You got Kristen Bell and also Anna Paquin in the beginning, and they get killed off by the Ghostface killer. And then, you know, the main characters in this are a lot of notable names. You know, Emma Roberts, Hayden Panettiere, Alison Brie, Adam Brody, Rory Culkin. I mean, there are a lot of notable names in this movie. And then you bring in some of the veterans in here, too. You know, David Arquette is back, Neve Campbell's back, Courtney Cox is back. You got Anthony Anderson as one of the cops in here. Surprised Jamie Kennedy didn't come back for this. I mean, what's Jamie Kennedy really doing at this point, honestly? But it's a movie that I think is definitely a much better film than it was to see back then, because it didn't get the best reviews overall. I mean, it was mostly forgotten and didn't really make much of an impact at the box office, but I'll tell you this, it was certainly a much better movie than Scream 3 was. Scream 3, I think, is still the worst one of the series. It's because at least with this, you got an idea that, okay, they're trying something new with it. It's been 11 years since the last movie. You can do stuff now because times have changed. You know, we use the internet. We have the internet. We have social media. And that can be brought into this movie. The film almost makes it work, but it sadly doesn't cut it in the end. And that really kind of bummed me out when I finally got to watch this again. Because I did enjoy it, but at the same time, it still had a lot of stuff where it's just like, you could see where they were going to go with this, like elevate this movie to the same level as it did with the previous film, with the first movie. And then, funny enough, they had a Scream TV series on MTV, which was actually surprisingly really good. And then we got the fifth Scream movie done by the guys at what is it? Radio Silence. Radio Silence, yeah. And that movie actually turned out to be a whole lot better than I think a lot of people really expected it to be, especially for me, since I hadn't seen those movies until very late on. Like, I didn't start seeing these films until after the last Scream film came out, in 2023, so it took me a while to really figure it out. And I got to it late, but this one is definitely better than Scream 3, but it's still not, I still wouldn't say it's a great movie overall. It's still a film that's at least trying to do something different, and give it a little bit of an element push compared to the previous film. And hey, one of Wes Craven's last films he ever did before he passed away. In fact, is this the last thing he did? I don't think it is, but yeah, it's the last thing he directed. Yeah, so hey, at least he's going on a better note than something like My Soul to Take. I mean, that movie was just an abomination on so many levels. But this, it's still not as good as the first two movies, but it's still better than Part 3. You gotta give it that, and it at least sets the stage for what the Scream series would go through in the next 14 years afterwards. So, yeah. Scream 4, good movie. Definitely not as good as the first two movies, but it still beats the ever-loving crap out of Scream 3. No question about that. So, let's move on to our next movie, Robert Redford's latest film, and that is The Conspirator.
Trying to defend you.
They're trying to save you.
Were there ever meetings held at the boarding house, many and always in secret?
You lie. My mother is innocent.
I can't know what's going on in that court.
You set the rules, pick the judges. There's no limit to how far the prosecution is willing to go.
There's no limit to how far the prosecution is willing to go! Look, James McAvoy's a great actor and all, but can you just tone it down and tone the overdramatics on that line reading? That's just one of the many problems with this movie. An interesting story, but yeah, like scenes like that, you could tell this film was pushing for an Oscar so goddamn hard, and it's just failing miserably at it. This is a story about Mary Surratt, the only female conspirator charged in the Abraham Lincoln assassination, and the first woman to be executed by the U.S. federal government. You have Robin Wright playing Mary Surratt, together with James McAvoy, Justin Long, Emma Rachel Wood, Jonathan Groff, Tom Wilkinson, Alexis Bledel, Kevin Kline, John Cullum, Toby Kebbell, and James Badge Dale. So a pretty good cast overall here, and directed by Robert Redford, who hasn't made a movie of noteworthiness probably since The Lines for Lambs, which was not a big hit by any means necessary. Excuse me, but I mean, it's definitely a better movie than Lions for Lambs, but at the same time, it's not really doing a whole lot to make it stand out. It's not doing much with the intriguing story that they could do with this, and the actors, like I said, are trying way too hard to push for that Oscar bait. I mean, James McAvoy's line in that trailer alone about the prosecution just made me laugh so hard the first time I saw that. Like, I mean, you're a great actor, but come on, man. You gotta tone it down a little bit here, for the love of God. And really, nobody was really buying into it, per se. It quickly came and went at the box office. Nobody really heard about it anymore. And Robert Redford would have one more chance to kind of reclaim his title once again with The Company You Keep the next year. But this, yeah, it's definitely a pale comparison to some of his early great works as a director. The ones that we remember him for, Ordinary People, A River Runs Through It, Quiz Show. Those movies, I think, stand out best in terms of his directorial categories. But this, not so much. This is a film that just doesn't work as well as they wanted it to. And yeah, it just shows on screen that, yeah, this thing ain't gonna sell with people, so. But at least it tried better than our last movie, and boy, this one, oh boy. Let's talk about the movie that was so important that they had to split it up into two because everybody else was doing it. So, hey, if Twilight's going to do it and Harry Potter's going to do it, you're goddamn right we're going to do it to Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged.
Is the sky? Who is John Galt?
In order to save my family's business, I'm going to have to abandon. I'm going to take a leave and start my own company.
And what are you going to call this new line of yours?
The John Galt line.
I'm not going to allow you to run that train.
You can do whatever you want with your men, Mr. Brady, but that train will run if I have to drive the damn thing myself.
What we're doing, my men, your railway, it's us who move the world.
If you double-cross me, I will destroy you.
Oh, this movie is a delight. And by delight, I mean an absolutely horrid, horrid movie. If you've never read the book of Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged, I'd say be grateful. If anything, you could just go ahead and watch the South Park clip with Officer Barb Brady, and I think that pretty much sums it up for you.
I was happy to be learning how to read. It seemed exciting and magical. But then I read this, Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. I read every last word of this garbage, and because of this piece of I'm never reading again.
Hooray for Barbie!
No, seriously, that's how you feel after you read this piece of garbage. Because this book starts off with a 60-page monologue, and then it has a 70-page speech at the end where Ayn Rand is basically just rehashing all the points that she had already beaten to death in this fucking book. I had to read this when I was in school, and let me tell you something, reading this book in school was one of the most torturous things I've ever had to deal with. I mean, that was the worst thing. That was the worst thing. Fuck the bullies, fuck getting teased around. Like, this was the worst thing I had to do when I had to deal with it, when I had to deal with high school. Like, this right here was torture. But as the plot synopsis here says, it was great to be alive once, but the world was perishing. Factories were shutting down, transportation was grinding to a halt, granaries were empty, and key people who had once kept it running were disappearing all over the country. As the lights went down and the cities went cold, nothing was left to anyone but misery. Which is funny, because that's exactly what will happen to you once you read this fucking book, or even watch this movie. No one knows how to stop it. No one understands why it was happening except one woman, the operating executive of a once mighty transcontinental railroad, who suspects the answer may rest with a remarkable invention and the man who created it. A man who once said he would stop the motor of the world. Everything now depends on finding him and discovering the answer to the question on the lips of everyone as they whisper it in fear. Who is John Galt? The better question should be, who gives a fuck? And I love how this plot synopsis on IMDb is a perfect sum up of how much this movie is so far up its own ass. Like, I swear to God, Ayn Rand probably wrote this herself. She may have been, I mean, she's been dead for God knows how long, but she probably figured out how to write movie synopsises and said, fuck it, this is what we're going to do. She died in 1982, and this thing still felt like it was written by her. This movie is unbelievably bad. This is a 3-part movie. So this is supposed to be 3 parts of a film. And it has a runtime of not even an hour and a half, just a little over an hour and a half, and yet it drags on and on and on, and it's just like, for the love of God, wrap this up already, Jesus Christ! And it doesn't help that you don't have any big stars in here. I think if your biggest star is Taylor Schilling, pre-Orange is the New Black, then there's probably a problem here. I mean, hey, you got Michael Lerner, who nobody's really heard from in nearly 30 years. John Polito, he was once a respected character actor. Michael O'Keefe, Danny from Caddyshack, is nearly 30 years ago at this point. Armin Shiverman, some of you might know who he is, character actor, but yeah, most of you probably don't. But yeah, this is a terrible movie, and if this is just the first movie, I can't imagine how much worse the other 2 films are going to be, because I've never seen these movies before I started getting ready for this, and watching this one was just torture to watch. This was unbearable, inexcusable, just lousy movie, a lousy film that's trying to be considered entertainment. Like, who was this made for, honestly? Like, what person who reads Atlas Shrugged is going to look at this and say, well, I clearly want to see a movie version of this? No one. No one is going to say that, but someone said, we're going to do it anyway, we're going to make 3 movies out of this, like, just, I think you get the point. Atlas Shrugged, Part 1, It's going to get worse from here, folks, so brace yourselves. We still got 2 more of these pieces of garbage to go over the next 3 years, that's for certain.
Get your children over.
I ain't going. I'm so glad you're here.
Lower your voice.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Everybody, here's Medea.
Dum diddy.
You on the road, girl. You on the road.
Shake that.
Yeah, when even the Maury set looks much cheaper than the actual Maury Povich show does, you can tell how pretty cheap this movie is, and that's at the end of the movie. You spend all this time waiting for that moment. They put it in the trailer like it's a big selling point of the movie, and it's literally the last 5 minutes of the movie. But anyway, welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the 3 films of April 22nd, 2011, and we do start off with the 6th film in the, I guess, the Medea cinematic universe. I'm literally reading it off of Wikipedia, and it literally says Medea. Yeah, right there. There it is right there. So I guess Medea's going to eventually cross over with the Avengers at some point, which, let's be honest, that probably would make that Marvel's... That would actually probably help Marvel at this point in time, but this is Medea's Big Happy Family, and it tells the story of Medea finding out that her niece is dying from cancer as she gathers her niece's children and her family members together to deal with the news while contending with the different issues between them. So you have a whole assortment of different characters, one of them played by Loretta Devine, which I always like Loretta Devine whenever she shows up in any movie. And she'll have a couple of movies coming our way in the next month, because she'll have this and then Jumping the Broom, which Jumping the Broom is a much better movie. But you also have Bow Wow in here, David Mann, Cassie Davis, Tamela Mann, Lauren London, Isaiah Mustafa, the Old Spice guy. Look at your man. Now back to me. Look at your man. Now back to me. Natalie Desailly, which I haven't seen her in anything in a long time, but probably not since Babs, if I'm not mistaken. But you have Rodney Perry and Shannon Kane, and it is what you think it is. I mean, it really is a movie that you really do need to go into it. Being a fan of Tyler Perry and seeing what she has to offer, if you don't know Tyler Perry, chances are you're probably not going to enjoy this movie. And if you find her comedy funny, you'll find it funny here. And like I said, it's a better cross-dressing comedy than Big Mama's Like Father Like Son. At least with this, the effort was at least put in there to do something that was actually funny for the audience that's going to like this movie. And Big Mama's insults your intelligence. This one knows its audience all too well. And really, it's a movie tailored strictly to its audience. And I'm unfortunately not that audience, so naturally I'm not going to be fully invested in it. But I'm not going to say it's that bad in general. It just didn't work for me. It's just a film that I know fits a specific audience in particular, and I know going into it that more than likely I'm not going to find the real enjoyment in this. Fans of Medea are going to love it, so what else am I going to say about that? So yeah, not much more to say about that one. That's Medea's Big Happy Family for you, and I hope people who saw it had a big, happy, good time with their family. I don't know. I don't know how to end that one, but let's go ahead and move on to our next movie. Robert Pattinson, Christoph Waltz, and Reese Witherspoon starring in Francis Lawrence's Water for Elephants.
Circuses? 1931. With the Benzini brothers. That's the most famous circus disaster of all time. Are you telling me that you were there for... Right in the middle of it. I don't know if I picked that circus. Something told me that circus picked me. Run on tricks. Everyone plays. Old uniform. Deserve a blue for it.
See, they're giving water to the elephants, so now we have a reason why the movie is called Water for Elephants. Yeah, I still don't get the title of that movie either, but this is a movie where you have two people, Jacob, played by Robert Pattinson, from Twilight, of course, who meets Marlena, played by Reese Witherspoon. It's love at first sight, their shared affections for an extraordinary elephant, stirring profound feelings of compassion within both of them. Theirs is a love that could span lifetimes, though the wrath of Marlena's dangerously domineering husband, played by Christoph Waltz, threatens to spell tragedy for all involved. And here's the crazy thing about this movie. I kind of like the film, but let me put it this way. It's a movie that works in every department except for the story. It's another one of those movies that I guess you could say is style over substance. I mean, the movie overall has a lot of good elements to it. I mean, there is a lot of good stuff in here. I thought the three actors in here were very good. I mean, Robert Pattinson, here's a chance to really show what he could do and prove that Twilight was simply a fluke. And, you know, we just saw him in a movie that's not Twilight related, and Remember Me. That was terrible, but really it wasn't his fault. It was just a bad script overall. But here, this is a movie where he's really given a chance to show what he can do. And this is probably the best thing I saw him in up to that point. I thought he was actually really good in this. And it's funny how in both Twilight and Remember Me, he's given no depth. He's only given one emotion throughout those movies. And in Remember Me, he's just given this really shitty Brooklyn accent way too much emotion to the point where it's just like, tone it down a bit, dude. And he has no character whatsoever. But in this, it really is him acting and showing what he can do. He's doing a great job at it. And it reminded me of what Zac Efron was like when he stopped doing the High School Musical movies and started doing stuff like, 17 Again, me and Orson Welles, and even in something that wasn't that great, Charlie St. Cloud. But, Reese Witherspoon and Christoph Waltz, they work very good too. And I'll say this, so we are getting to the point where Christoph Waltz is starting to take on a ton of villainous roles because, hey, he won the Oscar for Inglourious Basterds a couple years ago. So let's make him the villain in every movie he's in. And yeah, in a couple of movies that would be fine, but it's fine in Inglourious Basterds and in The Green Hornet. But in this, it just felt like they were really pushing it too far. I mean, I really don't want to see that guy go down the same path as Mark Strong, playing so many villainous roles. And I mean, he kind of would continue on with that for a little bit, but he kind of toned it down after Django Unchained, after he won that second Oscar. And, yeah, I mean, I'm glad to see he got away from that, but there was a point where everyone just felt like they had to get the Jew Hunter because, he was the bad guy in that movie, and we need a bad guy for our movie. And, yeah, I'm glad they got away from that, really. I'm really glad they have gotten away with that, so. But, I mean, the best thing, really, about the movie is the elephant in this. Rosie, who's played by Ty the Elephant, which I think we've talked about him before, because this elephant's been in so many other movies. You're probably thinking to yourself, well, it's an elephant. I mean, how many movies could one elephant be in? Well, this is an elephant that has been working since 1981. He had an uncredited appearance in Quest for Fire. Yeah, an elephant has an has to be uncredited in a movie. It's amazing that he even gets cast in these movies, but, this is an elephant that's been in Big Top Pee-wee. He was in Roger Kipling's The Jungle Book. He was in Operation Dumbo Drop. He was in Larger Than Life. He was Shep in George of the Jungle. He was in The Scorpion King, Looney Tunes Back in Action. He was in another Reese Witherspoon movie, Vanity Fair, back in 2004. He was even in Exit Through the Gift Shop, the documentary by Banksy. I mean, this elephant has been everywhere, and it's amazing that this elephant lived to be 52 years old and have all these movie roles, to the point where they actually credit him in the movie, and it's just like, that's really something. And, hey, truth be told, the elephant does a really good job in here. It's weird that the animals usually are the best things about this director's movies, Francis Lawrence, and of course and you really feel sorry whenever something bad happens to them, of course, like what happened with the dog in I Am Legend. But I mean, it's funny too, because also while this elephant was praised for this movie, there was also a lot of controversy erupting because she was mistreated prior to filming, and they actually had a video out there that was leaked showing footage of the elephant being shot with handheld stun guns and beaten around the body and legs with bull hooks, and it's just like, good lord, man. It's just like, this elephant went through hell and back. And the fact that he made it all the way to 53 years old, I mean, that's incredible. That's amazing to think about in that situation. But it's a fascinating story, man. You gotta look this stuff up, because I'm reading this Wikipedia article, and it's just like, there's so much stuff in here. This is stuff you need to. This is stuff you would probably need to cover for a documentary of its own, and maybe give me an idea because I just finished the Siskel and Ebert documentary as of yesterday, and looking for a new idea. So maybe that might be enough. Maybe that might be something for the future. But like I said, the biggest problem with the movie in general is that the story overall is pretty weak. I mean, it lags a lot in the middle to the point where I was falling asleep. I mean, let's put it this way. I was 22 years old when this movie came out and I saw it in the theater. And if I have to be put to sleep because of how bad a movie like this is, how boring a movie like this is, then clearly something is wrong here. And I didn't like the opening and closing caps with Paul Schneider and Hal Holbrook. You see it in the trailer there. And I thought they were okay, but honestly, they kind of felt unnecessary to the storyline. Like, you could have easily had this be a period piece storyline that takes place in the, what was it, the 1920s, I think it is? 1920s? That's close, 1931. Like, you could have had it just set in 1931. You didn't really need to have these end pieces here. And I feel like they put it in there because, for some reason, the audience is too stupid to figure out, what the 1930s were all about, apparently. Like, I don't know. To me, it felt stupid. And I didn't think they were bad. I just thought they were unnecessary to the story. And that's kind of the problem with Water for Elephants. The story is bad, but everything else about the movie I thought was pretty good. I thought the visuals overall were nicely done. I thought the casting was very good. The elephant is surprisingly charismatic, and this felt like what Dumbo probably should have been, the Tim Burton live-action Dumbo movie, and it probably could have worked that way had they gone in that direction, but as far as this goes, it's fine. There's nothing about it the story is a mess, but the rest of the movie is just, it's just okay, I guess. It's nothing bad, nothing great, just, if the story had been better, this probably would have been one of the best movies I've seen up to this point in the year, but sadly for what it is, mixed opinion, leaning towards a slight positive thumb up, but kind of in the middle, so it's one that I don't really go back to a whole lot, but, I mean, they at least put an effort into it, so I gotta give it that. And hey, Francis Lawrence is gonna have much bigger success the following year with the Hunger Games coming up, but that's for next March, so with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last one that we have here, Disney Nature's African Cats.
Critics are calling African Cats the real-life Lion King. Fascinating, magnificent, spectacular. African Cats, narrated by Samuel L. Jackson. Rated G, now playing.
See, Disney, you didn't need to make a live-action version of Lion King. You already had it with African Cats. Just put in Samuel L. Jackson as Scar and Patrick Stewart as Mufasa, and boom, you got a movie there. It's just like, can you imagine Samuel L. Jackson as Scar telling not Mufasa, telling the older Simba that he killed his father? He's like, I killed Mufasa, motherfucker! And Patrick Stewart's just like, yo, motherfucker! And, just be that guy from that movie Safe House. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's a hilarious scene where Patrick Stewart, it just goes batshit crazy and just starts shooting this gun into these holes for no particular reason. It was like a made-for-TV movie that was supposed to be a drama, but I'm sorry, when you have a scene like that where Patrick Stewart is literally shooting a gun and shooting it in these holes, I mean, that's a comedy, man. And I say Patrick Stewart because he actually did the narration for the UK version of this, while Samuel L. Jackson did it for the American version of it, but I don't know, maybe I might have made the Lion King a whole lot better. Live-action Lion King. Samuel L. Jackson as Scar, Patrick Stewart as a Simba. That could probably work, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about this movie called African Cats, which is an epic true story set against the backdrop of one of the wildest places on Earth. African Cats captures the real-life love, humor, and determination of the majestic kings of the savannah. Narrated by Samuel L. Jackson, the story features Mara, an endearing lion cub who strives to grow up with her mother's strength, spirit, and wisdom. Sita, a fearless cheetah and single mother of 5 mischievous newborns, and Fang, a proud leader of the pride who must defend his family from a rival lion and his sons. I also find it kind of amusing that Samuel L. Jackson is actually voicing a legitimate documentary, because the last one he did was the March of the Penguins spoof, Farce of the Penguins, which I never got a chance to talk about on here, but man, if you want to see something really hilarious, Farce of the Penguins is it. It's a funny parody, directed by Bob Saget, featuring this great cast, and the narration by Samuel L. Jackson. Definitely check that one out if you haven't seen it. But as far as African Cats go, It's kind of like the other Disney nature movies. It's fine for what it is. You can tell that they only put this out because, hey, Earth Day's coming up, so we need to continue this tradition of a new Disney nature documentary every Earth Day, which I think they still continue to do over on Disney Plus, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, they still have a couple of movies that do show up on there. Like the last one was The Sea Lion of the Galapagos, which came out on this past Earth Day. So I guess they are continuing to do them, but I don't know. To me personally, these just really were not my things. I mean, they're not bad. They're just kind of there. They're just kind of like, okay. I mean, this is what it is. Nothing too amazing, nothing too spectacular, but I mean, it's cool to see these animals on the big screen. I guess you got to give it that, but other than that, though, not much more you can really say about this one. African Cats. The real life Lion King, before 8 years later we do the real life Lion King, and most people hate it, so take that for what you will.
John, and then we disappear forever. First, we're gonna need a chameleon, someone who can blend in.
What else?
Utilities and weapons, guys who ain't afraid to throw down. Most important, we're gonna need 2 precision drivers.
You know we got that.
You're going down, Toretto? Not today. In theaters and IMAX, April 29th.
It's funny that he thinks that this is the last time that he'll see Paul Walker again, and yeah, spoiler alert, it's not. He'd only be on for one film, but welcome to Time About the Movies. It's April 29th, 2011, and we are taking a look at the 4 new releases of that weekend. And apparently Universal came in and said, yeah, fuck you, Thor. We're the movie that's going to kick off the summer movie season this year, because yeah, this is the film that kind of literally begins the summer season as the summer months began. Not but a couple of days after this movie was released, and that movie, of course, is our first film, and that is Fast 5. Paul Walker's back once again as former cop Brian O'Connor, partnering up with ex-con Dom Toretto, played by Vin Diesel, on the opposite side of the law. Since Brian and Toretto broke Dom out of custody, they've blown across many borders to elude authorities. Now back into a corner in Rio de Janeiro, they must pull one last job in order to gain their freedom. As they assemble this elite team of top racers, the unlikely allies know though their only shot of getting out for good means confronting the corrupt businessman who wants them dead. But he's not the only one on their trail. Hard-nosed federal agent Luke Hobbs, played by Dwayne Johnson, never misses his target. When he's assigned to track down Dom and Brian, he and his strike team launch an all-out assault to capture them, but as his men tear through Brazil, Hobbs learns he can't separate the good guys from the bad. Now he must rely on his instincts to corner his prey before somebody else runs him down first. And yeah, the Fast and Furious movies are certainly a very intriguing series when you really look back at how this series began, with the first Fast and Furious movie being a straight-up street car racing movie, and now we're literally turning into a heist picture, and this film is going to get more crazier and more insane. The series is going to get more crazier and more insane as time goes on, and this one, like I said, this one goes for more of a heist film a la The Italian Job more than a car racing film, and honestly, it's interesting to see a franchise like this going in that direction, and because it kind of makes it work in general. I mean, usually when franchises do this, it doesn't really pan out all that well when you move to another genre completely. I mean, look at what happened this summer with Megan 2.0 of all things. But I did really enjoy this one a lot. I feel like these characters were given more depth in the film than any of the other films. I thought the action sequences overall were very good, especially the one at the end, which I'll get to in just a second. The Rock and Elsa Pataki, who was actually Vin Diesel's wife at the time. I don't know if they're still are or not, but I mean, I thought they were brought into the story very well. They actually had a good job in here, and I thought Elsa Pataki, of all people, was actually the best actor in the entire movie. But the thing that really seals this as its own animal is the final climax when they're escaping from the Brazilian police, and it's really one of the best car chases you will ever see. Like, it's the best one I ever saw since Bad Boys 2. I mean, the Bad Boys 2 car chase scene is great. This is definitely very high up there. I mean, this is such a fun time all across the board, with notable flaws. I mean, yeah, some of the action sequences can be very cool to look at, but they are extremely unnecessary. It's kind of pop up out of random. Like, really, there'll be scenes where you don't expect it to come, and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, here's a random action sequence. Oh, and another flaw to the film I really don't like is, I kind of touched on this with Pearl Harbor. One of the characters says, "I'm pregnant," and when I heard that line, I thought to myself, why are we going to add babies into the world of Fast and Furious? I mean, it's usually brought into a franchise when a franchise runs out of steam, and it's never better than its predecessors. I mean, Shrek and Ice Age kind of had that happen, and a franchise like Fast and the Furious, where the films have gotten better since Tokyo Drift, I don't know. The idea of bringing babies up in the series really does not feel like it fits, at least in my opinion. But maybe my biggest flaw with the film was the post-credits sequence where they revealed that Letty was actually, she died in the last movie, but she's somehow still alive and it did a hijacking in Berlin. It's a scene that kind of comes completely out of the blue, and there was no need for that scene except to tease fans that another movie's coming within 2 years' time. And I got pretty mad about him, but then I realized they never officially showed in Fast and Furious that Letty was never killed off. But I mean, we should have known by then that. I should have known by this point that when it comes to the Fast and Furious, they're like the testosterone equivalent of a soap opera. When somebody dies, they're never really dead. I mean, we've seen that time and time again with the Fast and Furious movies, and even after the last couple movies, like, I don't know, them bringing the dead characters back seems kind of pointless to me. That's just my personal take on it overall, but I really like Fast 5. I think it is a ton of fun. I think it definitely is the thing that really pushed Fast and Furious to another complete level that nobody was really expecting it to. It was just good fun. It was just a good, fun time all across the board. The perfect definition of a great summer popcorn movie, and a great way to kick off the summer movie season. So that's Fast 5 for you. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Disney's Prom.
Ugh, prom.
You know, you could go. Ask somebody.
Oh, sure. Let me just pick a cheerleader from my speed dial.
He's still gonna ask you tonight. Don't jinx it.
Do you have a minute? Our prom?
You want to...
Carpool. Today's cutting class last month. It's fighting in the cafeteria.
You clearly need a way to stay out of trouble. You're gonna help with prom, or you won't graduate.
What?
What?
Glad you could make it.
Problem?
I was just taking inventory of this bucket.
That would be 1.
Oh my god, the schmaltz. The cheesy schmaltz, oh god. Yeah, when you're making High School Musical look butch by comparison, that's a problem. And High School Musical wasn't even a theatrical release series until the third movie. This does not feel like a film that should be seen, that should be put on the big screen. This should have been a Disney Channel original movie of the week, but no, somebody said, clearly we need to put this on the big screen. We have a badass director involved in this, the guy who gave us Sydney White. Yeah. So, prom and high school graduations are approaching for a group of seniors, but when the decorations are destroyed in an act of school vandalism, the class president is left scrambling. With everybody else preoccupied with finding dates and dresses, prom committee Nova Prescott, played by Amy Teagarden from Friday Night Lights, the series, is left to rely on the principal forcing a troublemaking rebel to help her out. But when he's there for her when she needs it, she starts looking at him in a different light. Put your schmaltzy bullshit out. Get your schmaltzy bullshit out. Right the fuck out of here. This movie is so stupid. This is such a stupid, stupid movie. It is schmaltzy. It is cheesy. It is corny. It is really lazy, and I mean lazy. But hey, we have these new high-tech cameras that we're gonna promote the shit about with this movie. I'm not even kidding. This movie is more known for the fact that they used Arri Alexa cameras to be released in theaters. And it's something I never even knew about until I literally did the research for this movie. I don't know exactly what the difference is, but what is the difference here? I'm trying to see if there's anything interesting here, or Arri Alexa AR. The Alexa's tonal range, color space, and latitude exceeds the capabilities of shooting in film. This camera's brought us to the point where digital is simply better. Okay, so maybe I guess this became the new norm for making digital cinema in general, because that's Roger Deakins who said that. And of course, Roger Deakins is one of the great cinematographers we've ever had. But is this really the first thing you think of when you want to be known as the movie that uses this type of a camera? Like, I don't know. Like, this film does not feel like a movie that should be on a big screen. This thing should have been a Disney Channel original movie, but I think because they had the girl from Friday Night Lights, which Friday Night Lights, and that is like Amy Teagarden in 2011 was 22 years old. She should have been out of high school at this point. You also have Cameron Monaghan. You also have Kylie Benbury from a very underrated show, Pitch, and also Game Night. Rainey Rodriguez and Paul Blart Mall Cop. Like, you have all these different people from different age brackets all in this one movie. Plus, I went to high school around this time. I was in high school 4 years prior to this, and I can guarantee you that nobody took prom as seriously as this movie does. Like, they make prom the equivalent of asking somebody to marry you. Like, that's what they make this feel like. No sane person on the planet can tell you that they've been in high school and this shit has happened before. The only reason this happens is because you have a movie like this saying that it's the norm, or you have MTV making a show about, the perfect prom proposal or something like that. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. This is corny ass shit. This is the laziest, most blandest piece of garbage I have ever seen in my life. And yeah, this thing is just a mess. This is a terrible movie. Surely you can tell what I'm going to say next, but avoid it like the plague, because, yeah, there are so many other better options out there than this pile of garbage. Not that many, considering the year we're in, but, case in point with our next movie that we have here, Hoodwink 2, Hood vs. Evil.
A wicked witch abducts two innocent children.
The names are kids Hansel and Gretel.
They'll have to get
Rescue Team Alpha, stand by for go, Oda.
Hey, does anybody want to order a pizza?
the old team back together. Red.
You can't pair me up with him. He'll just slow me down.
I've got me a foolproof rescue plan.
Saw that coming.
Granny.
We're kicking it old school.
Mud.
And Twitchy. He's not wearing any pants.
Is that bad?
Hoodwink 2, Hood vs. Evil, rated PG.
Even their attempts at comedy are lazy. I mean, my God. I guarantee you that when most people saw this movie, the first thing they thought was, oh, so this is what I thought the first Hoodwink movie was going to be. It's like the equivalent of what happened with Mannequin 2 on the movie. You expect Mannequin to be this really bad movie, and it kind of is, but it's kind of a fun, cheesy kind of bad. But the sequel was everything that everyone thought the first Mannequin was going to be. That's the same thing you could say about Hoodwink, because, yeah, this is pretty fucking awful. A movie that has no idea what the hell they're trying to accomplish, and, yeah. The plot of this is that Red and Wolf must team up to rescue Hansel and Gretel and Granny from an evil witch. And, of course, we have to replace several notable names in here, including Hayden Panettiere, who now plays Red in this instead of Anne Hathaway, because Anne Hathaway's an Academy Award nominee at this point. We got Patrick Wilson back. We got Glenn Close back. Martin Short has replaced Jim Belushi as the Woodsman. If Jim Belushi doesn't even want to be involved in this, then you've got a huge problem here. Hey, Bill Hader and Amy Poehler are Hansel and Gretel because they were on Saturday Night Live. We got David Ogden Steyer's back as Nicky Flippers. Cheech and Chong are in here. We don't know why, because they're still doing stuff. Phil Lamar's in here. Brad Garrett. Wayne Newton. Wayne Newton is in here. Heidi Klum. Danny Pudi. Deborah Wilson. David Allen Greer. Andy Dick. These notable names that should be a much better thing, but instead they're wasting their talents on this piece of shit right here. This movie is so bad on so many levels. From the humor to the animation, which looks somehow even choppier and worse than the original. But at least the first one had had people who were actually putting effort into it and made a funny movie out of it. The original Hoodwink is still one of the more underrated animated films you'll see out there, but this film is such a mess of a movie. Like, it's so bad that the company that made this movie sued the Weinstein Company for delaying the film's release, because Burger King had this toy line that they were going to do in 2010, because that was supposed to be when the movie came out. But then, the company sued them, and they didn't make any contributions to monthly production accounts after February 2009, and didn't even give them a release strategy in general. So, the Weinstein Company basically screwed this animation company out of trying to get this film out there and having it make money, and it just shows, man. Nothing about this movie, the effort in here is nowhere to be found. It's a mess of a film, a terrible, terrible movie. I think you get the point. Hoodwink 2, Hood vs. Evil, yeah. another one you should avoid like the plague. So let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, and that is Brandon Routh getting another big leading role in a comic book movie, I should say, not a superhero movie. Not quite as good as Superman Returns, but I don't know. I actually kind of didn't think it was as bad as most people let on it to be. Dylan Dog, Dead of Night.
Dog, the world's only living investigator.
What killed my father?
Of the undead.
The monsters you read about as a kid, they're real. They're the living dead, Marcus. The good news, the condition is manageable.
Brandon Routh.
Relax, it's a loner.
My arm is brown!
They were out of Caucasian in your size.
Dylan Dog, Dead of Night. Rated PG-13 in theaters April 29th.
Now, granted, I never read the comics that this is based off of. I'm just going directly off the movie, but coming into it, I really wasn't expecting a whole lot because most of the negative reviews for it were really bad. But I had it as part of a 4-film set that I got a couple years ago. I watched it, and I didn't come out hating it. I actually didn't mind it at all. I mean, it's not a great movie, but there's something that I kind of enjoyed about it. Brandon Routh stars as the epimonious, antagonistic, and self-aware detective who investigates cases involving the vampires, zombies, and werewolves of New Orleans, including a guy who's turned into a zombie played by Sam Huntington. You also have Peter Stormare and Taye Diggs. There actually are a couple of really good fun lines. Like, I love that one in the trailer there where the guy's just like, "What happened to my arm?" And he's got like a black arm. It's just like, well, they ran out of Caucasian arms. It's like, stuff like that actually is pretty funny, and there's a couple of moments in there where the humor is really good. Brandon Routh has a lot of charisma. I'm actually disappointed that he really didn't get to do a whole lot more in terms of these big leading starring roles after Superman Returns, but I didn't think this movie was that bad. I thought it was just a solid film overall, a decent film. It kind of reminded me of this movie that came out in the 1990s, Cemetery Man, with Rupert Everett. And, a little bit of Dead Again with the Peter Jackson movie. Dead Alive, not Dead Again. Dead Again's the one with Kenneth Branagh. I'm talking about the Peter Jackson movie from the 1990s, Dead Alive, which, yeah, I mean, it has a little bit of those tropes there. It can get cheesy at times. The visual effects are not that strong either. And considering this came from the same director that did TMNT, it's not really worth saying much to say that this is probably his best overall film, because TMNT had its moments, but it's kind of boring, honestly. And this is kind of a movie where it's slightly better, but not by that much. And I wouldn't even go out and say, check it out if you want to, because most people will tell you that, yeah, it's not that great of a movie. Some of them mostly have read the books overall, so I don't know. I'm going to this relatively unknown, and I didn't hate it. I just was kind of like, it's there. There's times when I did chuckle, times when I did get a good laugh. So yeah, overall, mixed opinion on that. What the hell was I doing with my arms? Just doing like peace out, bruh. No. Mixed opinion on that one. Kind of bordering towards slight down, maybe slight up. It's one I will probably never watch again, but I saw it for what it was. So yeah, that's Dylan Dog, Dead of Night.